Jonah Blank joins me now to talk more about the attack and the security situation in Afghanistan. He's a senior political scientist at RAND Corporation, specializing in Afghanistan and counter-terrorism. Jonah, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about this attack that happened on Tuesday. 60 people, more than 60 people dead, hundreds hurt, including women and children who just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Why are we seeing such an escalation of attacks by the Taliban?
Well, I think the Taliban is trying to show that it can strike anywhere, anytime. They just launched their spring offensive last week, and they explicitly said that the goal of the spring offensive was to fight a war of attrition and to crush the morale of what they term the foreign invaders and their armed militias of Afghan warlords, as they put it.
So what is this spring offensive?
Well, I think we've seen the start of it. The Taliban has gone right after the very units that protect VIPs, both foreign and Afghan. So these are sort of the security guards, the private armies of a lot of the people who are not only helping keep the government in power, but keep the Western NGOs and the Western establishment engaged.
What does it say about their capability? I mean, are you surprised? I mean, didn't the United States supposedly topple the Taliban government 15 years ago, and then we're seeing these types of attacks?
I'm not terribly surprised. The government of the Taliban was in fact toppled, of course, in 2001. But it is much more difficult to root out an insurgency than it is to topple a government. And the Taliban has been growing steadily stronger ever since. They are both a terrorist group when they conduct actions like this that target women and children, and also a classical insurgent army, as we've seen when, for example, in September, when they took and held the provincial capital of Kunduz for more than 2 weeks.
Ashraf Ghani, the Afghan president, in your opinion, has he done a decent job tackling this problem, the security problem with the Taliban?
I think he's done a better job than anybody else could have done. But this is a very, very difficult challenge. On the political side, Ashraf Ghani and Abdullah, his chief executive, who have an uneasy political alliance, have been able to at least keep Afghanistan from spinning apart. That was a real prospect when the election was held. But let's not fool ourselves. There are really deep schisms in the Afghan government and in the Afghan civil population, and that is why the Taliban is able to keep on making the inroads it is.
So, Jonah, where do we go from here? What about the peace talks? Are they pretty much dead? I mean, when the Taliban is launching deadly, brutal attacks, how do you sit down at the negotiating table?
Well, right now you don't, and the Taliban has made that very clear. They have rejected the peace talks. The Afghan government has made that very clear. They have said, now is the time for fighting the Taliban. There will come a time when the peace talks are ripe again. But right now, this is the time when both the Afghan government and their friends in the international community have got to do more to help bring the Taliban under heel.
And in the meantime, many civilians here are paying the price. Jonah Blank, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.